First up, I'll have what he's having. That's the feeling among Democrats today after Joe Biden's fiery and energetic performance, a campaign kickoff in the form of a State of the Union address. The president tackled concerns about his age head on, but his focus, while never using the words Donald Trump, were clear.
My predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. My predecessor came to office determined to see Roe v. Wade overturned. But my predecessor and many in this chamber want to take this prescription drug away by repealing the Affordable Care Act. I'm not going to let that happen.
Today, President Biden is starting an aggressive travel push with stops in Pennsylvania. CNN's Arlette Saenz joins me now live from the White House. Arlette, I know you have some new reporting on what else the president and his team plans to do to try to harness what they felt was a good night last night.
Yeah, Dana, President Biden is hoping to build off the momentum of his State of the Union address with what the campaign is calling a month of action for the weeks ahead. That includes ramped up presidential travel, as well as trying to organize volunteers and staff, and also launching a new media campaign. It comes as the president really used his speech to draw that clear contrast with the former president without naming Donald Trump by name. And that is really a theme that campaign officials will seek to drill into in the coming months as they head into November's election. Now, the president will face a key test this afternoon as he launches the first of a week-long travel blitz. He'll be in the battleground of Pennsylvania, visiting the suburbs of Philadelphia. Of course, suburban voters will be key as he's trying to court moderates, independents, and also female voters in this campaign. President Biden is also slated to travel to Georgia tomorrow. And then next week, he's traveling to New Hampshire, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Of course, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, all critical states in that blue wall that Biden is trying to maintain heading into November's elections. You'll also have Vice President Harris out west courting Latino voters in Arizona and Nevada. But it's not just travel from the president and vice president. The campaign is also trying to use the momentum of the State of the Union to organize their volunteers. They plan to open about 100 new offices in battleground states that will include about 350 staff to work on training and mobilizing volunteers through organic moments. They're also looking at the anniversary of the Affordable Care Act at the end of the year as a big moment. And then there's also their television and digital campaign ad strategy. The campaign is investing a lot of money in the next 6 weeks. They're going to launch a $30 million ad campaign on digital and TV. They're going to target Black and Hispanic-owned media outlets. They're also looking at non-news outlets to reach these voters. They're going to sports channels like ESPN, also cultural channels like the Comedy Central. You'll note that that is a channel that airs The Daily Show, which Jon Stewart has been critical of the president at times. They're also looking to build some momentum around March Madness with ads there. But it all comes as the president now faces the challenge of trying to translate that message that he gave to the American voters last night out on the campaign trail, trying to deliver that same energy that many Democrats have been craving for him to display with voters, as he now faces the very difficult task of trying to convince voters to vote for him over Donald Trump heading into November's election.
Arlette, there was a lot of new reporting in there. Wow. Just still trying to absorb it all. Thank you so much for bringing that to us. And one of the president's top goals for last night was to allay concerns that he's too old and not up to running another term. He chose to hit those concerns head on.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. In my career, I've been told I was too young, and I've been told I'm too old. The issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas.
Joining me now to discuss that and so much more from last night is my panel, CNN's Gloria Borger, the New York Times' Zolan Kanu-Youngs, Jackie Kucinich of the Boston Globe. Thanks, guys, for being here. It's too bad we had no news to cover this week. Yeah, right. Gloria, you have known Joe Biden for a long time, covered him for a long time. You have been to one or two State of the Union addresses. Yeah. Can you just kind of put in perspective what you saw, not only from him, but just in general, this kind of delivery of the speech that he gave last night?
I think he knew exactly what he had to do. And Joe Biden prepares and prepares and prepares. You know, he was born with a stutter, always has to overcome it, marks up every speech he does. And I think that he did the same thing this time. And he knew that he had to be energized. There were moments during the speech last night he might have been a little too energized, but he knew exactly the job he had to do. And he spent a lot of time with his staff at Camp David, and he understood it. And he likes jousting with the audience, and the Republicans played right into his hands.
Yeah, I'm going to show a bit of that in a second, but first, this is probably a Joe Biden that you will recognize, Gloria, all of you, those of us who know him. There was a moment that we got from the cameras that were there with the president as he left the chamber when he was talking to two members of Congress. Watch this.
You were on fire. You were on fire.
Nobody's going to talk about cognitive impairment now.
Yeah. You were on fire.
I kind of wish sometimes there was cognitive impairment.
I mean, that was funny.
It was.
I wish I was cognitively impaired after watching.
There were various moments where you could see the president sort of enjoying a homecoming of sorts. I realize he spent most of his career in the Senate, but still he has relationships with many of these members of Congress. And even just the amount of time that he spent sort of mingling and talking after the speech, it seemed to all be a part of, at least in part, of sort of showing energy, showing stamina in a way. We know that there's been criticism and concern from voters about his age and about his stamina, and whether it was the jousting, sparring with Republican hecklers as well, ad-libbing, or even engaging with Democrats that he's known for a while yesterday. You saw that he had an intention to really show that energy.
So I want to show two clips that sort of speak to examples of what each of you has said. One on him taking, he believes clearly, the Republicans taking his bait, and the other an ad-lib moment.
Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Sounded a little bit like he said killed by illegals, but it sounds like he was trying to say, maybe did say, killed by legals at the end there.
Right. I mean, it was a moment. It was a surprising moment. I can't remember the last time I was that surprised during a State of the Union. But, like Joe Biden's ad libs in the past, this one kind of got him in some trouble, particularly with Democrats who don't use the word illegal, call undocumented workers. However, he was able to get back on script quickly. But both of those clips were the same Joe Biden. He likes to spar. He likes to go back and forth. And the Republicans did play into his hands. I can't remember who said it earlier, but you were talking about how Matt Gaetz was someone who was saying, don't engage. Right. We're trying to tamp this down. I think you were saying it, Gloria. And it's because they could I would imagine he could see that this was going to play right into Biden was prepared for this. Mike Johnson actually had to ask his members not to, or to behave. These are adults. Yeah. And so I think because of that, they were prepared for some of this.
Well, and listen, they weren't just prepared. He egged them on.
Right.
He wanted to have those moments. He wanted to have this fight. And that's another thing. He's comfortable with that. But I wonder what your thoughts are, Gloria, about the fact that it was so political. I mean, we've never seen. I mean, have you ever seen a State of the Union address like that? Now, to be clear, I don't think we've seen a general election race that started this early. We certainly haven't seen a president running against his predecessor who wants another term. And then there are lots of other maybe unprecedented moments that led to that speech last night.
Yeah, I noticed you said his predecessor, just like Joe Biden, who would never mention Trump's name. Look, I think the norms we're used to, those of us who've covered politics for a while, are out the window. And one of those norms was the State of the Union speech, which normally didn't sound like a convention speech, which this sounded like a convention speech to me, or a campaign speech. And I think that this may be the way it's going to be. And he knows he's running against Donald Trump, and he knows what Donald Trump has been saying about him. And I think the people in the White House felt the need to respond.
Yeah.